Hello, everybody, and welcome to your weekly AAA Hole podcast, where we talk about all things gaming news related in the gaming industry as a whole and just how incredibly up they've become, which is why they create a-holes like me, your AAA Hole. I'm Deathwitch as usual. I got my co-host with me, Ozzy the Aussie. Say hey to everybody, Ozzy.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And a couple of guest stars. I got Icy Heart, another Twitch streamer here who just loves talking about DLC, and Failing. I would consider him a professional gamer because he does it like a full-time job. Say hey to everybody, guys.
What's up?
Hey. All right, so I'm just going to jump into it for this week because this is a topic that's been eating at me for a while, and given all of the headlines surrounding Dead or Alive 6 and just everyone freaking out over its DLC price tag of $96. That got me thinking. Here, and I'll throw a graphic up on screen for everybody watching on YouTube. Boom, there you go. That got me thinking, what is DLC anymore? Has the definition changed? Is it what we think it is? So I got a graphic up of DLC as the way I remember it, which would be on the left, and DLC as the way it works now, which is on the right. So we're gonna start with the obvious question. What do you guys think when someone says DLC? What comes to mind? Someone says that they're releasing DLC for a game. What do you think it is?
Well, basically, the DLC, as most gamers, especially most gamers our age, would know it as a full expansion, a full new story, adding on to the game with content that's more than just a flashy new skirt.
Right. And Icy, you're a younger gamer, so you're not quite as old as me and Ozzy. So, what's your definition of DLC? Like, what would have to be in it for you to consider it DLC?
I'm going to consider something a DLC has to at least give at least more gameplay time, because games are fun until you start getting repetitive. You need something new to reinvigorate a person, and that's what DLC should be. It should reinvigorate your will.
See, so I asked the question because as you've seen Dead or Alive 6's $90 season pass.
Yeah.
That is just filled to the brim with quote-unquote DLC. Now, of this $96 season pass, it is about 90% costumes for your characters, and then 2 extra actual characters. Now, the 2 extra actual characters, as someone my and Ozzy's age would agree, those are actual new content for the game. There's something new that didn't exist. Cool. Yeah, there's something new that didn't exist before, you bought that DLC. They add something new to the gameplay. They expand upon, the game you've already bought, and they add more to it. To whereas I think the costumes are they're nice, they're cosmetic, they're fun to look at, but they don't add anything to the gameplay.
They're flashy.
Yeah, it's just cosmetic. It would be the equivalent of, paying for, which if I'm not mistaken, I believe Street Fighter tried this in one of their iterations and it didn't go over well, so they didn't do it again. But it would be like paying for a different color costume for an existing character, paying for a palette swap, which is, in past games and past Street Fighter games, that's something that you just unlocked as you played. And that seems to happen a lot now, too. The stuff that you would normally unlock through gameplay is now stuff you have to pay for. There's less and less content that you actually unlock in the game itself through playing the game. Everything's DLC now. So with a season pass like Dead or Alive's, the term season pass implies that you need everything in it in order to get the complete experience, in order to, keep experiencing new content to expand upon the game. It's not like, you would buy a season of a television show and there'd be episodes in it you were intended to skip because they had nothing to do with the story to the show. So
another perfect example of that death is Fortnite's pass.
Fortnite's Battle Pass.
Yeah.
Yeah, which that's a different beast in itself. I'm trying to avoid free-to-play games as they they create economies in their games in order to support the game. So you're never intended to own every piece of DLC in a free-to-play game. If you did, it would be like the price tag would just be astronomical. But they're kind of turning Dead or Alive into a meme because this is a paid game that if you owned every piece of DLC in it would still be that comically astronomical price you would expect to find in a free-to-play game. So that makes you wonder, are you intended to own every piece of DLC in Dead or Alive 6? I mean, if you bought Destiny and you wanted the complete Destiny experience and you wanted to keep playing the game persistently and you wanted to be able to do everything in the game, you are intended to own every piece of DLC for Destiny. Same thing with World of Warcraft or, any game that does traditional DLC.
However, the thing you'd have to put in to distinguish these two things would be the DLC for Destiny would be the two new characters, or comparing the two. Forsaken would be the two new characters that they're putting in. The loot boxes would basically be like the costumes. Okay, you're not having to roll them, but they're not necessary for game completion. They're something to have extra for you to show off.
Right, and it's to note that in Destiny, in games like that do the cosmetics sold separately thing, which is essentially what Dead or Alive is doing, that those are never labeled as DLC. They're never included in season passes. They're never included in DLC packs, and they're always considered a separate purchase. They're always kept as a separate thing, not part of the DLC, the add-on package, not part of that season pass, not part of the added content you're supposed to buy to, get the complete experience. They're never factored in there. But in Dead or Alive's case, they're factored in there, which has me wondering, well, what constitutes, a microtransaction in a game, and what constitutes DLC and added content now? If we're just throwing the cosmetics in there as the bulk of a season pass and calling it DLC, then what counts as a microtransaction? Because the line seems to be getting blurred here.
The line's being blurry and blurrier ever for quite a while. The AAA industry is just trying to see how far they can push this line before people bite back.
A perfect example of what a microtransaction should be. Destiny 2's Bright Engrams. Those are all cosmetic stuff.
Which I'm glad that you brought that up, because with the line getting blurred here, because when people hear Season Pass, they assume that if I buy this, I'm going to have everything I need to continue playing the game without missing out on any content, without ever jumping online, like in the case of a fighting game, without ever jumping online and having to fight against a character that I don't own and go, oh, shoot, I missed out on this, now I need to go buy it. That's what a Season Pass is for. It would be, like in Destiny, if you didn't buy the Season Pass, then you'd eventually reach a point where there'd be entire sections of the game you weren't able to play because you didn't own the content contained within that section. So with them kind of blurring the line between the microtransaction shop, which is considered optional purchases, and DLC, which would be considered required purchases in my eyes for continuing the gameplay, with them blurring that line now with Dead or Alive 6, that brings me to what Icy mentioned with the with the Bright Engrams and the right way to do microtransactions is, what would be an acceptable form of monetization in a game? So you got a game like Dead or Alive, or Destiny, that they want you to play forever. Destiny's got a 10-year plan here. You're supposed to be playing this game for 10 years. Dead or Alive 6, these fighting games you're supposed to get into and play for a long time until they release the next one, and then even after, because each fighting game is different. There's still people playing, each version of Street Fighter is its own thing, and it's got its own community of people who still play it. So they want to keep supporting that game, keeping those servers going, but they need to do it after they've already sold the game, so they have to put some kind of monetization in it, which brings you to the question of what is an acceptable form of monetization in a game? What is an acceptable way for a developer or a publisher to monetize that game without you feeling like you've been ripped off? What would you consider an acceptable form of monetization?
Basically, the first thing that needs to be done within any form of business, whether it's creation of the game or monetization, DLC, microtransactions, whatever, is basically transparency with the customer. The more you try to remove the transparency, hide what you're doing, the more people should be going, okay, what is going on here? Why don't they want us to see what they're actually doing?
Okay, so you have a new game, which I agree. There should be transparency. You should be able to, see up front what the DLC pricing is, what the microtransaction pricing is. You should be able to see what you're getting, because you definitely don't want another one of those cases like we get time and time again where they show you one thing during E3 or during a conference or during PAX or wherever they're showing their game. They're building this hype train to launch this game, and they're showing you trailers. They're showing you all the content that you're supposed to get when you purchase the game. And then you purchase the game, and half the stuff from the trailers isn't in it. It doesn't look the way they promised. And there's even been some cases where some of the stuff showed off in said trailers is now being sold as DLC. So it was originally intended for the game, and now it's not in the game. And then there's always seems to be that lingering question anytime a new game comes out when they launch DLC, especially day one DLC or DLC really close to the launch of a game.
Kind of sounds like you're referring to Anthem there.
Well, I'm referring to a few games, but this has happened time and time again where you get day one DLC or you get DLC so close to the launch of a game that it's a question that lingers in the back of everyone's mind after just spending $60 on the game was this content that was supposed to be in the game and now they're selling it to me separately? It doesn't feel like DLC at that point. It feels like, like they took parts of the game out and then try to sell it back to you after advertising it as being in the game when you bought it to begin with. So the question I was asking was, what would be the right way for companies to monetize their game after purchase where you as a consumer wouldn't feel violated, wouldn't feel like you've been cheated, but they still get the chance to make enough money to support the game? Is it optional stuff in the game and try to live off that? Is it expansions and required DLC to continue the experience long after launch? And if so, what needs to be in that for it to be justifiable as DLC? Or is it something else? What would be the way you'd want to see a game monetized for you to enjoy playing it after paying a $60 purchase?
Me personally, if for any sort of monetization for like excluding the DLC new content should only be cosmetic. Like, yeah, you can play the game without it. It's just nice to have a little money thrown in on things that like oh, this effect looks cool. I like to buy it. Is there any way I can do that? Sure, here you go. It's like that kind of concept where for monetization outside of the base game should be just cosmetic. There shouldn't be anything locked behind gates. Some games I know you have to buy a certain thing just to get access to a base core feature.
Because I've seen we've seen some AAA games, some $60 full purchase games, try to dabble in we'll call them mobile market microtransactions, where they've tried to dabble in the some of the practices you would see in mobile games, not just the loot boxes, which thankfully they're getting away from those. I mean, not that I don't agree that they should stay cosmetic, but unlike you, I don't agree that they should try to, like games like Destiny should try to keep making their monetization after launch on things like Bright Engrams, because Bright Engrams are basically loot boxes. I prefer that we go with the Fortnite model, or other games that have a shop of cosmetics where you just like shopping in a store in real life. You go in, you see a shirt you want, you buy that shirt, you own that shirt. You don't have to.
Well, basically the Warframe model for the cosmetic side, where you have your skin. They tell you exactly how much it is in your native dollars, so US or Australian, Canadian, whatever. It's transparent on this is how much it's going to cost. Do you want to buy it or not?
Yeah, I mean, I'm even fine with them using an in-game currency as long as the thing I'm buying is the thing I'm getting. It's not like, you walk into a Walmart or, a Gap or wherever, and you're going to buy some clothes and you see a shirt that you want, but you don't see it on the rack. Instead, you just see a box, and you got to buy the box, take the box home, open it up, and hope you get the shirt that you saw on the rack you wanted. No one would buy clothes that way in real life. Loot boxes, as we know, I hate loot boxes, and I don't think they have a place in video games. I mean, even in the mobile market, which they have completely destroyed the mobile market. But we've seen AAA games that do more than just loot boxes. Some of them have tried the wait timers, where you run out of energy and you can't keep playing until you wait, or you have to purchase more energy. We've seen, and some of them have been free-to-play games. Some of them have been, AAA games that you have to purchase. Some of them have been cheaper AAA games, what we'll call budget AAA games, which that's where you mostly see this. The AAA games that launch not at $60, but they launch at a $40 price tag, or a reduced price, but that reduced cost of getting, a AAA published game on day one at a reduced price, you seem to pay for that with more microtransactions, in-game advertisements, product placements, in-game advertisements, your wait timers, all these things that they do with mobile games now to monetize them. Because when I quit playing mobile games, I remember the moment I quit, and it wasn't even because of the monetization of the microtransactions. I quit because it was just the combination of everything. I just felt like the game existed for the sole purpose of squeezing as much money out of me as humanly possible with as little bit of actual game that they could make. As I was playing this game, can't even remember which game it was now because I've not played mobile games in so long, but EA games, even EA, AAA publisher mobile games are guilty of this, where you play the game.
Oh, EA games are totally.
EA's a whole separate beast.
Star Wars Galaxy. What's the one with the?
They've done a lot of Star Wars ones where they just rape the Star Wars name on the mobile market. I think it was actually
Galaxy of Heroes or something.
Yeah, it's Galaxy of Heroes.
Galaxy of Heroes.
I think I was playing a Square Enix game, actually, another AAA publisher on mobile who's guilty of all this stuff.
Brave Exvius or something.
Probably, I remember it was one of them.
All the Bravest.
Might have been all the Bravest. I can't remember which one it was, but it was one of those games where you get those little short rounds that you play. They take a minute or two to play, and then you go back to a screen and you level up, and you go back to your home screen in the game, and you level up your characters, and you do your microtransaction, your micromanagement of your characters, and you go back to your menu system, and then you start another match. So I remember I went to start a match, and I had to watch an ad before I could play the match. Then the match started, and I played the match. And then after the match, before I got to the results screen of the match that I just played,
another ad.
I had to watch another ad. And then I went to level up my characters, and I ran out of crafting materials, and I'd run out of energy, where it then tries to sell me a crafting materials pack. I said no to that. I went to play another game.
Watch an ad for one material that you need.
And after doing 3 or 4, well, I'm not even counting the optional stuff. I'm just talking the stuff that they kept throwing in my face while I'm playing. And then after ignoring, their pop-up ad to try to buy some crafting materials, I went to play another match, and I had played 2 or 3 matches, and then I was out of energy. So then I get a pop-up ad to buy energy. And as soon as I log in the game, they're throwing ads at me on what is on sale today and what's on the bundle pack. Basically, I was playing a game that was 2 to 3 minutes of gameplay, followed by 2 to 3 minutes of, being advertised to, being sold stuff, being forced to look at the shop. Because if you split the times up evenly, from the amount of time they throw ads at you, be it an advertisement for something else that they're making money on because you have to watch an ad for Gillette razors or something, and then the amount of ads they throw at you in the game for their own stuff, between the amount of time I spent looking at ads versus the amount of time I spent actually playing the game, and in most cases it was at best even, where I was spending the same amount of time on each. In the worst cases, it was I was spending more time in the game watching advertisements and being advertised to than I was actually playing the game. The game was just a way to trick me into being advertised to. And luckily we haven't got there with the AAA market yet, but it seems to be inching closer and closer to that. As I have seen games that flat out advertise to you. I mean, you've even seen that recently with games like Street Fighter V throwing, advertisements on the characters themselves in the game that you've been advertised to, and doing grindable currencies and energies. And I wouldn't be surprised if they start giving you the options to watch an ad in exchange for some of that grindable
get
currency.
Started on the mobile apps that actually put adware on your phone, where you're sitting on your home screen and ad pops up.
Well, that's another thing. I'm just talking about like what the games where we could see the AAA game and market going. Like I don't think we're far in its current state from getting to the point where you've got grindable currencies like in Street Fighter V. You've got the grindable currency to unlock more characters, and you get boosted currency now if you opt to put advertisements on your Street Fighter, Ryu, Ken, or whoever. You opt to put advertisements on their clothing while you're fighting with them, and if you have that on, you get a boost to the grindable currency that you can get while you're playing. Yes, that's a thing that's happening right now.
Oh my god.
So if you choose to put a logoed ad from a company on Ryu's clothing while you're fighting with him, then at the end of the match you get a bonus to that in-game currency you can use to unlock other characters. That's how you unlock the stuff for free instead of paying money. It just seems like we're inching closer and closer to getting to that point where they can just completely interrupt your gameplay by you watching a 30-second advertisement. It would be like watching a YouTube video and getting to, decide where the ads are on the video and watch more if you wanted for some reason.
Congratulations, congratulations, you have finished this strike in Destiny. Now watch an ad while we take you back to your ship.
Yeah, like getting to the end of a strike or something in Destiny, or getting to the end of
just before the final boss,
or getting to the end of a mission at Warframe or whatever game you're playing. Getting to the end of a mission, and then they show you what you've earned. They show you the experience you've earned. They show you the crafting materials you've earned. They show you
if you want to double, watch an ad.
Yeah, they show you the faction tokens and everything, and then they say, hey, if you want to double the amount you've earned, watch this ad. It seems like we're inching closer and closer to that.
Having trouble with this boss? Watch an ad and we'll knock his health down a little bit.
Okay, so how much would it bother you to have that? Not the thing with the health, but like have the ability to get double crafting materials or double faction tokens.
It would kill gaming.
I mean, how much would it? All right. Let me throw you.
They already have that though.
Let me throw you a scenario here. How much would it bother you to have the ability to watch ads in a AAA game like Destiny? How much would it bother you to have the ability to watch an ad at the end of the strike to get, an extra piece of gear, to get a free gear drop, or to get double faction tokens? How much would it bother you to have that in the game if it meant you had less DLC, or you had no loot boxes, or they pulled back on a different form of monetization and gave you that instead? Which would you rather have?
I'd rather go for the DLC. Give them more content.
DLC, yeah.
So you would rather have paid DLC. So you'd rather have
paid proper DLC.
Yeah.
Okay, so Which I'd rather have paid proper DLC too. But what if the difference was, would you rather have the completely voluntary version of the ads? Not the ones where they force you to watch them, but the ones where you can, say, hey, I want to watch this 30-second ad so I can get double faction tokens. Or they put it at the end of a strike. Okay, here's a better version. At the end of a strike in Destiny, you had the option to watch a 30-second ad for a free random cosmetic, or would you rather level up and get engrams for your free random cosmetic? Which one would you rather have?
That's actually a good question
so
for me personally.
If it meant that the Eververse would completely die, there'd be no more loot boxes in the game, and now the only way to get cosmetics would be to buy them outright or watch ads for random rolls, versus the version of the Evershop or the Eververse that we have now. Which one of those would you prefer? Keep the Eververse the way it is, where you can just buy your engrams and earn them through leveling up, or get rid of Eververse entirely and get to watch ads for a free cosmetic instead of buying it outright?
Well, I can see both sides of that argument about why one side's good, one side has issues. I can see both sides of that argument.
So which one would you personally rather have in the game? Would you rather have loot boxes, or would you rather have 30-second ads that you volunteer to watch for a cosmetic drop and a cosmetic shop where you just buy cosmetics? Which one?
I do the voluntary ads over the randomness of the engrams.
So you would welcome ads, straight up TV commercial style ads in your video games for random rolls instead of pulling out your wallet. What about you, Ozzy? Which way to monetize that would you prefer?
I'd possibly go in the other direction, actually. Whilst the loot boxes are scummy and I don't agree with them in whatsoever way, they are completely ignorable.
Well, so would these ads. These ads would be completely ignorable.
They would still be popping up and saying, do you want to watch this ad? Do you want to watch this ad? Do you want to watch this ad?
What if it wasn't a pop-up thing? What if it was just a button you press?
You had to add.
Yeah, what if it was just a button you press at the end of the strike, where you could press, you could press enter or you could press A on your controller to complete the strike and move on, or you could hold down Y and watch an ad first and then move on. So it's not popping up; it's just an option on the screen.
There. It's still visible.
Yeah, it would still be there.
Yeah, and that's basically the problem I have with it, that it's still basically visibly there.
Yeah, but
it's basically the same thing you have against the weapons buying in Warframe.
Here's a conundrum for you, around the Destiny 2 topic, with how you said you can completely ignore the loot boxes. Those engrams use up one of your engram spots that you could have used for a prime engram for another piece of gear.
Well, that's a small thing, but to give it as an example of what you're saying, with the system it has now, and I'm just playing devil's advocate here. I obviously prefer the system we have now as opposed to ads, but I'm just kind of comparing the two, because the current system we have now, every time you level up, you get that same pop-up. You get that pop-up on your screen telling you earned a loot box, which then forces you to go to the Eververse loot box store, forces you to look at an entire storefront just to open it. To whereas the ads would just have you watch an advertisement for 30 seconds and instantly give you your cosmetics. So they're never actually forcing you to look at the cosmetic shop if you don't want to. So that's kind of the trade-off there. Do you want to be forced to look at a cosmetic shop in which you have no interest in purchasing actual stuff from the shop first just to open your box? Or would you rather voluntarily watch an ad to get your cosmetic and never have to see that storefront? So you never are tempted to pull out your wallet. Like, which one do you prefer? Not having the temptation to pull out your wallet, but having to sit through an ad, or being forced to be tempted to pull out your wallet because maybe while you're in there opening your engram, you see one of those things at the bottom. Yeah, because they show you what the featured thing is, and you can look and see what's in the engrams, and you go, oh, well, maybe I'll shop around while I'm here, So then you get enticed to shop.
Kind of like you usually with the good doggo emote.
Yeah, so
I have
which one?
I have self-control and all of that,
Well, some people
so
don't have
wouldn't
self-control.
really
That's the
think
issue.
that. Oh yeah, that's the issue. I understand.
Yeah, so I was just saying,
It's really everyone
you
has to
personally,
make
yeah,
their own.
like each person has to decide for themselves, and that's why I was basically taking a poll here. Ozzy votes for the current system. He doesn't mind looking at the storefront. I'm personally in the same camp as Ozzy. I don't mind looking at the storefront. I feel like ads would suck you out of the experience, even more so than being forced to go to the storefront. Because at least going to the storefront, I'm still talking to an in-game character who has some lore behind her, who has some story or reason for being there. I don't feel like I've left the game's universe in order to get my cosmetic. Whereas if you're watching an ad, you've completely left the game to watch this ad entirely.
And
it sucks you away from the experience.
the other thing is you've got the bright dust, that non-paid in-game currency to actually get all the consumables. So you being brought to the Eververse to actually turn in your loot boxes isn't always just, hey, spend more money, give us whatever for silver.
Yeah,
I can actually see what I want to get with my bright dust.
What if you could earn bright dust by watching ads voluntarily?
No. As I said, too intrusive.
Because that's the mobile games. I agree. The inclusion of any kind of video ad that I have to watch for 30 seconds, even if I'm getting something in the game, is entirely intrusive. But I see Icy's side of the argument too, where he's like, you know what? The more stuff I can get for free, even if I have to do a little quote unquote work to earn it, the better. Because I totally get that side of the argument where microtransactions are too expensive. I'm not the kind of person who could afford to constantly be buying microtransactions, but I also don't want to miss out on this content. I don't have the time to grind 8 hours a day to get something for free, but I also don't have the money to buy it. This kind of acts as a middle ground for those people, because 30 seconds worth of ads might get you the same amount of bright dust that you'd get from one level up in the game, and leveling up in the game could take you longer, or would definitely take you longer than 30 seconds. So it's both a time saver and a money saver for somebody like Icy. So I completely get both sides of the argument. I'm still going to agree with Ozzy that I think it has no place in AAA games. Not because of what it offers. I see the value of it, but because of the way that it completely just ruins the experience. That it just sucks you out of the universe the game is built. It sucks you out of the experience. It's basically asking you to stop playing the game to get stuff in the game. And I can't get on board with that. But I get both sides of it. Like I think there should be a better way, especially in grindy games like Destiny, to get that free currency than they currently have, than making you play for hours and hours on end. Because I'm also in that same camp. I'm one of those people who my time I can spend playing games is extremely limited, so I don't spend a lot of it farming optional things like bright dust. I spend it farming things I need to keep progressing in the game. So all that optional stuff I usually miss out on. So I'm one of the people that they would target with purchases, because for me, that'd be the only way I'd be able to get a lot of that stuff, if I wanted it, would be to purchase it, because I don't have the time to grind for it. I don't have time to grind for stuff I need to continue progressing in the game and grind for optional stuff. Like I can grind for one, I can't grind for both. I don't have that much time. So I'm one of the people that they would try to advertise the money side of it. So it would be nice to have an option to earn that stuff for free while still earning the company money, so everybody wins. I just don't think advertisements is what I'd want in the game as a way to do that. So that'll bring me to my next question. What is something they could do to give you the option to earn that paid stuff for free while still earning them money in the process, so everybody wins, without doing video ads? If not video ads, then what could they do?
I really don't know, because it all comes back to that they don't want to they don't want to get some of the money. They want to get all of the money. So they want to get as much money as they can with as little expense, which is the issue.
Well, I'm trying to find that happy medium ground. So let's pretend for a moment that they don't want to get all of the money, that they would be happy with some of the money, or let's even say that they, for a minute, figured out a way where they could make more money offering you this thing in game to do to get free stuff than they could make offering you something to buy. Because everybody will do the free option, but only people, you know, like your whales and your people who spend a lot of money would actually buy the thing. So if they found a way to give it to you for free that also made them money, that's a win-win for it.
Like a game.
I'm just trying to figure out what that thing would be that wouldn't ruin AAA gaming, because I keep thinking of all the stuff that they do in mobile games. But on the other hand, I also think of how those things have ruined mobile games. Like, obviously you have your, 30-second, hell, I've even seen some that were entire, 90-second long ads in some of those mobile games where you're just pulled out of the game for minutes. I've also seen where they do in-game surveys to make you take a survey. I've seen where they've done not the video ads, but just have you look at a pop-up ad or try to send you to a store page to purchase another one of their games, to at least have you look at the game. So it's one of those, you don't have to spend 30 seconds on it. You just say, yes, I want to show it to you. So basically they're offering to show you this thing, the equivalent of the guy who stops you at the door going into a store in real life and goes, hey, do you got a minute so I can show you this pamphlet? And he tries to advertise something to you before you go in the store. Try to advertise you his thing. Can I have a moment of your time? Kind of thing. So I don't know. I think that wouldn't be necessarily a terrible idea if they could do it in a non-intrusive manner. I think that would be the happy middle ground that could get them to back off some of the microtransactions and may even get them to put content back in the game if they learned that they could sell more copies of the game and get more eyes on the free thing that you could do that made them money. So if there was something you could do for free that made them money, they'd want to put as many eyes as possible on that without making the game free. I just don't know what that thing would be.
Yeah, nor do we.
If
you can solve it, you're going to be a billionaire.
Yeah, because I can't think of nothing off the top of my head that they could do that wouldn't.
The problem with is that any advertisement in nature is intrusive.
Yeah,
that's what it's designed to do.
Yeah, because I'm trying to think if there's like an in-game way they could do it that wouldn't ruin the gameplay experience, would feel organic, and then also wouldn't feel like it was ruining the gameplay experience. And obviously anything like that you're going to do is going to get some bad headlines. I was originally going to say something that wouldn't get any kind of bad headlines. Like, I don't personally mind the Street Fighter thing where you can opt to put, as long as shit like that's optional, I don't personally mind that. Adding a costume in the game that contains advertisements and then choosing to wear that costume gets you bonuses. I don't personally mind that.
I'm fine with that. That doesn't bother me a bit.
It does suck that, and I haven't played Street Fighter V, so I don't know how frequently they're used, but I do think the downside of that would suck would be getting tired of seeing those costumes all the time when you're playing online, because so many people would be using them in order to get the free stuff.
All right, a way they could do the costume then is the costume is only good for so many items before there's a cooldown on it.
I mean, yeah, that's one way to do it, but I'm trying to add that same logic to something like Destiny, or even something like Path of Exile or Diablo, where I'm trying to think, is there something like that they could add that would only affect the person using it? So I don't have to log into Destiny and go do a strike and see through, 3 other Guardians that are all wearing, Coca-Cola themed armor so that they can get a bonus in the game, because you'd get tired of seeing that. But if there was something that they could put on that really only you would ever see. Like
they
maybe
could
a
do
ship for
like a
your
little,
orbit or something like that. That
like
you wouldn't.
a weapon charm slot, like a little weapon charm.
So that the whole time you're running around with your weapon out, it's got a little sticker on the side of it or a little ornament on the side of it that advertises for a company.
Yeah,
that would be less intrusive as far as the people who want it to opt out of it goes. So then I wouldn't be forced to look at your gun unless I got really close to you. I could see that. I could see that working. I also see Ozzy's, because I already know what you're going to say, Ozzy. So I also already see Ozzy's side of it, where this wouldn't
dead.
This wouldn't make the gaming industry side of it any better. It wouldn't cause them to back off of any of their microtransactions. It would just be another weapon in their arsenal that they'd overuse on top of the things they're already doing. Because as he said, they want to make all of the money, not some of the money.
Which is basically an issue. You can't make all of the money. It's not sustainable. That's a lesson that the industry has to learn. Yet it's, at the moment, no one wants to teach it.
Which loops back to the thing I say every week. And I know you guys are probably predicting what I'm going to say now, but the only way the industry is going to learn that lesson, ladies and gentlemen, witches of all ages listening or watching here live, the only way the industry learns that lesson is if we teach it to them. If we stop buying this shit. If we vote with our wallet and tell them this practice is unacceptable and we won't buy it. This one is acceptable, so we'll buy this one. So what I was trying to figure out with today's episode is what would be considered that acceptable thing that would make you pull out your wallet, would make you happy to support the game, that you would vote with your wallet. If your money was the only money the company looked at in order to make its decisions on monetization, how could they get your money, Ozzy?
Just basically well-made, decently priced cosmetic stuff.
How would they sell you that cosmetic stuff? That's what I'm asking. Like, if your money being spent in the game was the only way that they decided how they sell to everyone else, how would you decide that? What would you say?
Factor?
As I've basically said, I have no problem with the shop. But go in, see what's there. Alright, I like that piece of that armor set. Looks good. I would like it on my avatar. How much is it? Okay, $7. I'm happy with that. Click, purchase. I get it. They get money.
So Ozzy prefers the traditional storefront. You know, you go in, you shop for the item you want, you buy the item you want, you're done. What about you, Icy? Would you prefer the traditional storefront like Ozzy said, or would you prefer kind of a mixed storefront where they have now, where you've got, let's say you walk into that storefront and it's got all the cosmetics laid out for you, and some of those shirts are $7 a piece, or some of those armor sets are $7 a piece, some are 10, some are 8. You know, the cheapest one is 5. Or you could pay $2 and get a random roll and maybe get a chance of getting something more expensive cheaper. Would you prefer
I'd rather go with the one where I know the set price and like, all right, that's a decent price, fine. If nothing looks good this week, I'll come back later. I'll come back next week when they get new stock in and see what they got.
Okay, so
here's the basic thing
against the loot boxes.
Here's the basic thing. That's the way economy has been working for hundreds of years. It's down to a refined science now. Don't mess with something that's not broken.
We're humans. We're gonna fuck with something that's
I would agree with you in the. I mean, that's the way that the economies work mostly in the real world, and I would agree with you if they weren't doing this shit in real life and it was working. Okay, so
yes.
So have you seen these? Walmart sells them now. Target sells them now. You can go and get a video game theme, and I've seen it with not just video game themes, but children's toys. I've bought these because
the little blind bag Lego figures, all what
Yeah.
pop
The pop
caps or
figurines,
Well,
like
there's entire like $20 boxes now. I saw it in Walmart the other day. It was a PlayStation themed, like a loot crate.
I tend to see those at like Hot Topic.
Well, yeah, like the subscription based loot crate service that sends a blind box to your house. I've seen stores like Walmart just selling those blind boxes, their own version of a loot crate that says, 15 PlayStation items for $20, and then it shows you on the package what you could possibly get, but you don't actually know what's in the box. And my kids love those. They love like they're grooming kids for this. They love opening these, not just the little blind bags for Lego figures, but there's some big ones too that cost $5 and $10. Like we opened one the other day that I bought for my kids, not even realizing what it was. But they went nuts when they saw it. And it was a fun experience for him to open it. And that's the scary part. It was so fun. All right, so it's this like we're grooming them to gamble. And it was so fun for them to gamble this. It was this little capsule thing that we bought. It's called a LOL capsule. And we bought this little capsule, and it's got dolls and figures in it. But it comes with, they make it into a fucking game. You don't just open the loot box and get what's in the loot box. It's a game. So it comes with a piece of paper. So it's got all these compartments on the capsule. You want to go grab one of them so I can show? So my wife's going to go grab one. I'll show it on stream here for those of you watching the video version. But for those of you not watching the video version, I'll describe it while she's going to get it. So it's this little capsule. It's about the size of a drinking glass.
Oh, like those
that.
ones?
And it's got this capsule, and the capsule's got compartments on it, and the compartments are locked with a combination lock. And inside the kit that you buy, it comes with a piece of paper, but that has the combinations on it. But it doesn't just tell you what the combinations are. It's a riddle. It's got a little decoder glass, which is like a tinted glasses that you have to put on, and when you're wearing the tinted eyeglasses, you can read what's on the paper. And then they have to decode the message in order to get the combinations to open each one of the locks. So they're playing a game to open the loot box that I spent money for. And then when you get those compartments open, you still don't get the item that's in them. You put in the little combination, you open the compartment on it, and it's got a blind bag inside of it. So you still don't even know what's in that. Then you got to open the bag. Yeah, so here's one. So if you're watching my stream here, I'll get rid of the graphic for this. So if you're watching my stream, this is essentially it. It's this big capsule. So if you look at the top here, there's 1, 2, 3 compartments on it with these little combination locks. See, and when I press it, it opens the compartment on the side. I open the combination lock. See, I press it, and it opens the combination lock. I press this one, and it's going to open the... Oh, they changed the... I don't know what the code is for this one. Yeah, they started playing with the code. So I can't open that one because it's locked. See, this one's locked. I can't press... I'm pressing the button. It's not doing in anything. You have to...
It brings in the puzzle box type.
So it becomes a game for them to open it, and obviously you got this big one in the center, and that's where their doll is. And look at this. There was a doll inside the doll, so even then, they open it up and they've got this doll, but this doll opened up and it had another doll inside of it.
Matryoshka type thing.
So it's just a loot box inside of a loot box inside of a loot box. All hidden behind riddles and games that they have to play. So your $10 experience here that my kids have gone nuts for is this just cascade of loot boxes hidden behind a game, national treasure style game. I mean, I'm glad they had fun and they like the toys, but it's scary to think that, because we didn't have anything like that. I mean, I'm glad they had fun, but we didn't have anything like that when we were kids.
Yeah, no.
Do you remember any toys like that, Ozzy, where it was all a mystery and you had to unravel the next mystery and get a random thing, so you didn't even know what your toy was?
No, most we had to that sort of thing was Pokemon cards.
Yeah, the
card games, card packs are the classic. Yeah. I mean, even before Pokemon, even before Magic the Gathering. I mean, you can go back as far as the 20s for, baseball cards. Yeah, I mean, the card packs have always been a thing, but I don't remember a physical toy that I ever had growing up as a child. Like, I remember getting cool toys. I remember getting the Ninja Turtle van that shot the little pizzas and stuff. But every toy I ever got
that was a fun toy.
Yeah, Transformers. And I guess the Transformers would be the closest because you didn't know what it would transform into at first. Especially if your dad lost the instructions. So that was fun figuring that out, I guess.
Guessing your dad lost the instructions to death?
Yeah, no, he never used instructions. He said, I don't need this.
But even then, you knew who you were getting.
Yeah, you could watch a TV show and you were a fan of the thing. But with these, there's no television show that accompanies it. There's no comic book, no fandom behind it. It's just the thing is the thing. But the scary part is the fact that it's grooming your child at an early age to be accustomed to the idea of loot boxes and this form of gambling, so that as they get older, they expect it. And it's really scary to think with the economy, not just the video game economy, but the economy as a whole is going to be like, in terms of marketing, when they get older and they have kids. Because they're going to grow up seeing stuff like those blind boxes on shelves in stores and not thinking twice about it. Because I look at it and I'm like, oh, really? The fuck, guys? But they look at it and they just go, oh, cool. And it's another thing for them to buy.
Yeah.
Which means now you're going to see more and more of these as time goes on in actual real life stores. So not only has this concept worked in video games, but it's, and I get you were trying to make a point, Ozzy, but you kind of made the opposite point that it's becoming a thing in real life. We're already grooming our kids for this to be a thing in the real world.
Going to this is a thing we know. Like, I go into a toy store and I'm looking for a Rodimus Prime figure from the Transformers line. I can go in, get box with Rodimus Prime in it, and buy that. I'm not searching through you can possibly get it from this on a 1 in 100 roll.
And that's fine for us, but that's kind of my point, is that me and you, people our age, grew up accustomed to that form of shopping, where we want the thing, we see the thing, we buy the thing, and to us, that's normal. But people like my kids are going to grow up where loot boxes are normal. So when they think back to those nostalgic memories of their childhood, like you just mentioned, they're going to remember how much fun they had opening a loot box before they played with their toy. So they may actually go shopping for the loot box instead of for the toy, like their Optimus Prime or whatever figure they want. They may prefer. It's almost as if they're being groomed to prefer the random chance at getting an Optimus Prime instead of just buying the Optimus Prime. They may consider loot boxes are fun for them. So they may see that just buying an Optimus Prime and giving it to them, even when they're teenagers or adults, may not be as fun of an experience for them as feeling like they earned the Optimus Prime by buying it and getting lucky and then putting it on their shelf and having, especially if the loot box has some theme and some gimmick to it, so it's fun to open. It's then they no longer see it as a loot box. They no longer see it as gambling. They see it as part of the experience. It's part of the fun of getting that Optimus Prime figure. And then it becomes a story they tell. So when you come into my gaming den here and you look on my shelves and you see all the collectibles I have, of which I have many, but you look at all my collectible stuff, I tell you a story of what game that figure's from or what comic book that character's from. If you were to go in my kids' room in 20 years, their little collectible den, they'd show you some of those toys that they have collected or those statues or figures or collectibles that they have. And instead of telling you a story of Optimus Prime and where he came from, they tell you a story of the loot box they had to open to get him and how they got lucky and how they could have gotten this instead. And they start telling you the story of what could have been on that shelf other than Optimus Prime, but they're glad it was him.
In 20 years, I hope our kids are not here.
In 20 years? I mean, in their house. I'm not meaning in our house. They're not going to be in our house in 20 years. I'm just, you get what I mean. When they grow up and you go into wherever they keep their collectibles, it becomes a different topic of discussion. They view it in a different light. And it becomes part of the experience for them. That's a scary thought.
Being here in 20 years is...
And yes, I do hope my kids are still here, as in on this planet in 20 years.
Them being in our house.
I don't know. We could be moving to Mars by that point.
You're right. They could not even be on this planet. We could be living on Mars. Nah, that's not going to happen in 20 years. I mean, it could happen in their lifetime, but they won't be living there in 20 years. But yes, sweetie, I hope they're not living in our house in 20 years. Or if they are living in our house in 20 years, with us in 20 years, I hope that house is a mansion and we all live there together, because one of my little daughters grew up to be the next Beyonce and decided to buy us all a mansion to live in as a happy family again.
That, or you guys hit the freaking jackpot.
I would consider that hitting the jackpot.
I'm talking about like the Mega Millions smart one.
I've heard my girl sing. One of them could be the next Beyonce. It could happen.
Isabel could be a backup dancer, maybe. She's the only one with rhythm in this house.
How dare you? Our child could be a backup dancer. Where is your faith in our child, woman?
She could be the next Paula Abdul. How about that?
Who is Paula Abdul? They don't know who it is. My audience is young.
Fine, she could be the next Shakira. Is that...
Okay, I think it's time to rope it back in.
Yeah, bring it back on topic.
Britney Spears?
Because Jeff always stays on topic.
Dances.
I am staying on topic.
J-Lo.
I
Be the next J-Lo.
be the next.
That's what
J-Lo.
editing's for.
I do stay on topic. This all loops back to them, becoming famous and having more money to buy more of those loot boxes. Bam, reeled it in, nailed it. I don't know. I was trying to come up with a.
Did you manage to keep track of what he just said? Because that
was rambling.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
That was not rambling.
Yes, it was.
That was not rambling. All right, so to recap the podcast, as we're coming up on the taking the comments and email section. So to recap the podcast, we have spent nearly an hour today talking about acceptable forms of monetization in video games and what would be the best solution to make everybody happy, and we have come up with and accomplished nothing. Glad we can help everybody.
The gaming industry in general.
It's fucked. It is so fucked. Oh, we're just gonna the gaming. There is apparently the only way to fix this is for it to crash completely, so that one company gets to rise from the ashes like Nintendo did in the '80s and set new rules for everybody to follow. Because right now it's the wild west of gambling out there. Video games are fucked. Moral of the story here, video games, the industry is fucked. It's an expensive hobby, so if you're going to get into it, don't expect to just buy a game and play a game. You better just keep that wallet open and on your desk, because it's the only way you're going to enjoy all of the content in your game. Welcome to the world of 2019 gaming. I need another drink.
Right there with you, Dust.
And I think we wrap up there.
Let's check comments here. Myth popped in and decided not to co-host with us. He's gone to play Apex, which is a game that seems to be thriving pretty well on its loot box based economy. But in its defense, it is free.
It's free.
It is free, so you can ignore the loot boxes and have a good free experience, which is what I've done. And I could care less about the cosmetics in that game, but for those people who get really into it, man, I've seen streamers in games like that. I wish that's where it would go. I was trying to find the answer with this podcast for $60 games, because if you can make billions on microtransactions, your game should be free. But if you're going to charge for your game, I still agree that there should be a way that you can, continue to pay for the servers and support the game years after you've sold the game to somebody, because that $60 purchase price does only go so far. I think it goes a lot farther than they'd have you believe it goes, but it only does go so far. I'm still with Ozzy. I prefer, maybe I'm just old school, but I prefer that 6 months to a year after launch. If you want me to keep supporting this game, then you got to give me more game.
Yeah.
I'm fine with cosmetics and stuff.
But I need actual content.
I want more game. Yeah, I want actual content, especially if I already paid $60 for the game. If it's a free-to-play game, throw me all the cosmetics you want. Throw me, You know, you can throw loot boxes at me. You can throw me cosmetics. Throw me all that optional shit you want. Just keep the content free. And I'm fine with that in a free-to-play game. And they work well doing that. But for a $60 game, I don't want to feel like you're cutting stuff out of my $60 experience so that you can have an excuse to have a cosmetic shop open, so that you can have an excuse to have a loot box system open, or so you can have an excuse to sell me DLC the day after launch. You know, so I can pre-order season passes. You know, none of that. It's never going to happen, even though I don't personally pre-order DLC. I've never pre-ordered a DLC. I don't even pre-order games anymore, but I've definitely never pre-ordered a season pass.
Yeah, no.
But I'm one man. I think you should all follow my lead and follow my example, because I am an amazing person to look up to and be your hero and set your life by, but also because it'll make the industry better. I'm only one guy. I vote with my wallet, but apparently I'm feeling more and more every day like my vote doesn't count. So now I'm making my voice heard with this podcast, and all of you guys can show your support for that voice and show the world that you agree by, subscribing to the podcast on YouTube, by subscribing to it on SoundCloud, by downloading and listening to it every week,
by watching
and sharing it with your friends, watching live, being part of the conversation, sending me those emails. We need to check the emails. And I got nothing this week. I think that's because I didn't do a live one last week, so it's kind of a lull in the comment area here.
Yeah.
But there you go. There's the moral of the story, everybody. And to wrap up today's podcast, that the video game industry is fucked unless we all start voting with our wallets and only buying the stuff that we agree with. Unless we stop sucking it up, so to speak, and taking, I guess I gotta buy them. Unless we get out of that habit of buying stuff we don't want because we think it's just the way it is, we can change the way it is by not buying that stuff. So don't buy it.
The new standard.
So don't buy it. Yeah, we can set a new standard. Don't buy it. Just don't buy the shit. Yeah, it sucks to miss out. And I get that that's a big part of their sales tactic, is the fear of missing out. You fear you've missed out on part of the game. But don't buy it. I mean, unless it's actual content you need to continue playing the game with your friends, like Destiny's expansion packs. Just don't buy those loot boxes. Don't buy that stuff you don't agree with. Don't buy those loot boxes. Don't buy those cosmetics. Only buy don't pre-order anymore. Don't buy any season passes. Buy content when it's finished. Buy games when they're finished. Don't buy a game on day one. Don't pre-order it and don't buy it on day one. Wait for the review. Wait to see, did they release a finished product, or did they pull a Street Fighter V and release a game where half the main menu says coming soon? And if that's the case, don't buy it. Don't buy it. If you don't buy your games till they're finished, they'll stop trying to sell you unfinished games. They'll get the message, because money talks, and that's clearly what these companies care about. For now, though, that is going to wrap it up for this week's podcast. I thank everybody for listening. Thank you for putting me in your ear hole, taking me with you on your morning jog, your commute to work, your bathroom break, your shower, if you're headphones are waterproof. If they're not, please don't listen to me in the shower. You could die. And as honored as I would be to be the last thing you ever heard before you left this earth, don't do it. Just don't do it. But thanks for listening. Thanks for watching if you're watching on YouTube. And thank you guys who are here as part of the live experience. Thank you for watching. Hang out, because we're playing some Destiny after this podcast. And I'll see you guys next week. Say bye, everybody.
See ya.
See you guys.
Bye.